Hello and welcome to Munich, a really nicely done payware airport for Microsoft Flight Simulator, by the way. But we are talking about this amazing airplane. This is the Fenix A320, and I've got to tell you, Fenix just did an update on this, and it really is a good update. Not that it wasn't a great airplane already. Hello, I'm Dave. I do the Spy Flight over on Twitch. Every now and then I come on to YouTube and do a complete flight. I also like to do some first look videos, and my first look on the update for the Fenix A320 is, wow, an already really great airplane just got a little bit better. A couple of spoiler alerts for you right now. I'm not sponsored by Fenix or Microsoft Flight Simulator or Sobo or anything like that. These are just my opinions as somebody who's been flight simming far too long, far longer than I want to admit, and also someone who's been live streaming flight simulation over on Twitch for a few years, so maybe that means it's something I have to say might be considered worthwhile. And thank you for watching, and thank you for checking out this video. So this is, we are at Munich. We're going to be flying up to Frankfurt and doing a full flight in this, but let's talk about the update on this particular airplane. So the Fenix A320 update just came out a couple of days ago. My first look and overall impression is a great improvement on an already really great airplane. Add-ons that I'm using, it's SimBrief, SimToolkit Pro, Navigraph charts and data. I've also got payware airports for both Munich and also payware for Frankfurt. So the update that we're talking about is version 1.0.3.128, and that's as techie as I'm going to get on this one. A couple of things that I saw in the changelog. They added drag to flaps 2 and 3, and I think I might have noticed a little bit of a difference there. It really did start to slow down the airplane in a way that I haven't seen before. So that is a significant update, at least something that, an amateur like me figured out. Gear drag, better flare. I got to tell you, this is something I did notice because if you watch the Spy Flight over on Twitch, some of my landings could use a little bit of work, I guess, a little bit of practice. And I did notice that the flare was a little bit better. Not mentioned in the change logs or anything like that. I think that the radio and the McDo buttons are a lot easier for me as a simulator pilot to twist and turn and buttons punch and all that other stuff. And to be honest, it was kind of hard to make them work earlier. And that was a deciding factor for me about whether or not I was going to fly this airplane on a VATSIM event, because it meant that I couldn't respond as fast as I wanted to a change in the arrival, a change in the runway, or being able to tune the radios a little bit quicker. And I have to tell you, those buttons, at least for me, work a little bit better. Now, maybe that isn't something that was a part of the update and all of a sudden something inside my gaming computer changed. I'm not sure, but for me, I was able to take the Fenix A320 in some pretty intense VATSIM events last night, and I didn't embarrass myself too badly. So that was a huge deal. What are we going to do today? So anyhow, that's my evaluation of all of this. If that's what you were waiting for, that's the evaluation part. Let's actually take it out to the airplane and hop into the cockpit and take it on a flight. The cool part about YouTube is if you're learning airplanes like this, you can stop and start the video right now. Load up your own simulator and fly along with me. I'm going to show you the flight plan so you can do that. And again, you can pause, restart, and rewind the video in case I punched a button a little bit too fast if you're trying to match my button pushes. That's how I learned how to fly these complex jets, is other people's YouTube videos. After you do this flight, I do suggest you take the airplane on what I call a hometown flight. That way you can just go ahead and use your own landmarks, your own neighborhood, where you like to fly, and that just helps you remember all the stuff. And then I always like to extend the invitation. Please come on over and fly with us on Twitch. We fly every day, Tuesday through Sunday at 1900 Zulu. During the summertime hours, that is 3 p.m. Eastern in the U.S. Our flight today is Munich to Frankfurt aboard a Lufthansa A320. We are departing Munich's 26 left, runway 26 left on the Givem 6 Sierra departure. We're coming up on the Fauer, I think, 2 Bravo. I'm always pretty creative with my pronunciations of some of the SIDs and stars. Landing on Frankfurt's 25 left, cruise altitude today, full light level 240. It should be an hour and 10 minutes gate to gate. Our flight distance today is 222, which is better than 666, and that's going to be the end of the silly No, it's not going to be the end of the silly joke. Sorry. Using Sim Toolkit Pro. Let's go over here. Here is our route of flight. I got the latest weather all updated, so we're going to hit fly now. You look at the top of your screen, and that should eventually put a little bit of flight data up on the top of the screen. I said that should put some flight data on the top of the screen. Let's go ahead and punch a button here and punch another button. Okay, well, glad to see that that's not working. Oh, I needed to push one more button there. Please work. This is the embarrassing. Oh, thank goodness. I forgot to push the button at the bottom of Sim Toolkit Pro. You have to identify whether you're flying X-Plane or Microsoft Flight Simulator. Okay, with that little bit of embarrassment over, let's go ahead and hop in the best seat in the house. Now, the way that you actually start doing things is you start in the pilot seat. So let's see, let's go over here and let's go and pop in there. And we're going to go to the electronic flight bag. And I got to tell you, this electronic flight bag is probably the best I've ever encountered. The combination, the password is 000, or you can just put your little mouse pointer over the fingerprint and it'll go and let you in. So that's as easy as that goes. Pilot brief, we're going to click the far right button over there, and that's going to give us our pilot briefing, and we import the latest operational flight plan. Safety tip that I usually do when I do a flight plan over on SimBrief and Sim Toolkit Pro, I always download the PDF file. I always download it and save it on a PDF shortcut on my desktop called Active Plan. That way, I always have the latest flight plan, and I don't have a whole lot of shortcuts on my desktop. So that's where I go and can always get that if I need to. But over here, you can also see our flight plan comes in here. We can scroll up and down, and we can refer to it, and that's a good thing to do. Next thing for us to do is go over to the Fenix app. And this is sort of like the application that I would imagine that each airline has. So every airline has their own iPad app. So, there is an app for that. And so we're going to import the flight plan from SimBrief and EDDM to EDDF. We are 16 minutes away from departure. Come on over here to ground services. This should already have chocks in place, a ground power setup. I'm also going to toggle a jetway. And if we go outside, you can see the jetways coming out to the airplane. By the way, if there's any jetway designers in the United States, I really, really, really like these jetways that they have in Europe that, have clear sides so that you can look outside. I think that's really awesome. I really wish we had more of those because, hey, want to see a little of the Hollywood. I know the security people are freaking out, when I say that, but they can freak out. This is Flight Sim. Toggle the jetway is done. Let's go to mass and balance. And this would also be weight and balance for other folks. And we're going to have 157 brave souls flying with us today. Fuel that we're going to need is about 5008. I'm sorry, this is the spy flight. It should be 5007. I'm just saying. But anyway, that's how many kgs of fuel we need. And now it's time to do the thing that flight simulator pilots love to do, start flipping buttons. And the first thing to do is come on up here. And the on switch for an Airbus is battery 1 and battery 2. We should have been good pilots and checked the voltage levels on our batteries. We also have external power already plugged in. So on our way down to the navigation lights, we're going to punch the external power button and go down here and do nav and logo lights. Two separate systems. They're both identical, but it's kind of as a backup. The day that I am recording this video is the 26th of September, so that's an even day. The way I choose to do that is I use nav and logo light system number 2. Number 1 for odd days. Other things that I've heard about is some airlines prefer if the pilot, the captain is flying the airplane, you use nav and logo light system number 1. If the first officer is the pilot flying, you use number 2. That's just one of those things that I've heard that people like to do. So, and there's probably other things that people will do as far as the nav and logo lights on the Airbus. Another thing, we're going to be fueling the airplane, so no smoking has to go on. We're also, I understand the thing to do is internal lights. The dome lights, you leave those on dim. And the airplane is started to beep at us. So we need to be like real Airbus pilots and come over here, and we're going to turn up the PFD, stands for primary flight display. I'm turning it up to about 2 or 3 o'clock. Let's also turn up the navigation display. Again, it's daylight, so around 2 or 3 o'clock. And this is one of those double knobs. So the knob that's closest to the panel is the map. We're going to turn that up to about 2 to 3 o'clock, and then I go and click it down 1. So I turn the map down just a little bit. And we're starting to get some computer screens are working. Let's look down here. We're also going to go to the ECAM, and I will turn these up to about 2 or 3 o'clock. So those are good to go. Look down here, make sure that the radios are on. Radios are on. And now we're going to go, and I turn the integrated lighting up. And I usually turn that up, about full. And that usually works for me. I'm also going to come up here, and there's integrated lighting. And we're going to do integrated lighting right up here. So there's the integrated lighting here, and I'm going to turn these up. It just makes it easier to kind of read the labels on the switches, and so that's why it is that I do those things. And our airplane is slowly coming to life. ECAM has got a couple of indicators telling us that we need to not really do anything. That's just the normal startup. Now then, we do have chocks in place. We know that the chocks are in place from ground services. And so Airbus's brakes get a little on the warm side, so we're going to disengage, turn off the parking brakes here. Some airlines, I think, do that. Other airlines don't. It depends on your airline. And let's go over here, and we've got 2 McDo's here. So over on the first officer side, we're going to go and we're going to click the ATSU button. ATSU stands for Air Traffic Services Unit. And we're going to go over here to AOC, stands for Airline Operations Control. And we're going to go to Flight Init, and we are going to init a data request. See the little star over here? When you push the button, the star goes out. That's how you know that you pushed the button. Sometimes you think, did I really push the button? Because it doesn't pop, the data doesn't pop in immediately. And we are Lufthansa Flight 441, EDDM to EDDF with EDDL as our alternate, and that's a lot of EDDs, and we will look at the estimated time en route as 0041. Let's come on back here, and I'm going to leave this on received messages. Come on over to the FMGC, and we're going to look at the nav data. It's good until October 5th. So with that, we're going to come on up here. And we're going to go and do the IRSs. So IRS number 1, the way I understand it, you do IRS 1 to nav, observe the fault light and the on battery light. When on battery goes out, you can do IR number 2, fault light and on battery light. And then we'll do number 3, fault light and on battery light. We'll also come over here real fast. We can test the APU fire system. And it beeps at us. We can do engine number 1 test. Now we could also, I believe, double click those buttons, and that will hold the fire test on so we can see all the other indicators in the cockpit. But that's going to take care of those. On my way down from doing those buttons, I'm also going to come over here and turn on the crew supply of oxygen. I'm also going to slide over here, and I'm going to take the cargo heat and just put it about mid-range. In case somebody puts a dog down there, we don't want the dog to get frozen or something. So I just usually turn that to mid-range. And let's go down here, nav accuracy upgrade. And GPS primary is lost. We're going to clear those 2. And now we can go and start doing a couple of things here. All right, so let's go to init. And we're going to init the data request. Again, note the star over here. When you push the button, the star goes out. That means you pushed the button. And I've noticed that the buttons on the McDo are so much easier to push these days. And it just makes, a special, maybe it's not realistic in the real world, I don't know. But in the sim world, wow, does it make me want to fly this thing on VATSIM a lot more. Okay, and this is EDDM to EDDF. That looks good. Let's clear this. IRS init. And align on ref. And confirm. Come on over here. Our flight number is DLH. Right, DLH. Sometimes I mix those up. It is DLH, right? Oh, where is the flight? Yeah, DLH, good. Sometimes I mix those up. DLH, flight 441. There we go. No, you don't put it in cost index. You put the flight number in flight number. DLH. I haven't had enough coffee. I usually record these things early in the morning. Okay, cost index for today's flight is 5. Not a very big cost index. And our final cruising altitude is 24,000 feet. 240, and there we go. All right. Things are slowly coming to life here on the old airplane. I'm going to come up here, and we're going to do master switch on the APU. We can look down here, and we will see if the flap is going to open, which it usually does. I usually wait to see that. From what I understand, you don't have to wait for the flap to open. The airplane's smart, and you can push both of the buttons together. But it's kind of good to just see the flap open. And the flap is now open. So we can now come down here and, like every Airbus, start up the old APU. This is going to get a little bit of pneumatic pressure going through the airplane. Now we're going to come over here. Let's go to mass and balance. And we're going to go and start loading the airplane. Fuel and passengers. There we go. I'm going to do the fast load. The real time takes 26 minutes. I'm going to do the 9 minutes. I know flight simmers are always so impatient, right? Now, while this is going on, let's go and do the winds. So hit the wind button and hit wind request. Now, real Airbus pilots say you should be able to just insert the winds after they pop in here like this. We can go to the next phase. And so previous phase, so that's in there. I found that, so the uplink is done. We'll clear the uplink. And now if you hit it a second time, so the star goes out after that. Now this is something that I'm not doing right, but now notice this time we can uplink insert. I don't know if that's something you've got to do or not. I haven't read about that yet. But our wind data has now been inserted, and so we're good to go there. Weather for Munich here today. Looks like the wind is favoring the 2.6s. So here is the latest weather. This is METAR TAF. If you are new to Flight Sim, I absolutely think that this is one of the best websites for weather. This helps you visualize what the weather is going to be like, especially the wind. So this shows you the runway, and it shows the direction of what the wind is going to do to your airplane. I really think this is a great website. I've got it shortcutted up here on my toolbar, and it's a good one for you. So come on down here. Let's go ahead and we're going to just check the charts, see where we're at. And we are over here somewhere. I think it's gate 247 is where I put us today. Let's go ahead and activate this. And SimBrief has suggested that we take off on 26 left. I think that's a good runway. So let's go ahead and do EDDM and departure and 26 left. We're going to be doing the Give 'em 6 Sierra departure. Give 'em 6 Sierra departure goes in there. No transition, so we can just go ahead and insert that into the flight plan. And all that's looking pretty good. Are passengers walking down the jetway? They are. Is fuel loading? Yes. So always like to make sure that that's been taken care of. And let's see, do we have a load sheet by now? No. So we're kind of out of the departure sequence here. So I'm going to just request that right now. Okay, we're done with this as my voice starts to mess up a little bit. I got my a COVID booster on Monday. And since then, there was some usual symptoms after, a booster shot and stuff. But it definitely left my voice a little messed up. Maybe I've just been doing too much live streaming. Okay, so let's do our arrival into Frankfurt. And right now we are expecting the ILS to 25 left. So 25 left is our ILS. There's good old 25 left. We're coming in on the Fowler. I believe it's the 2 Bravo. So there is Fowler coming on in. And so we'll come over here. And these always get a little bit complex, but I really like them. So there's Charlie. There is DF 625. There is DF 626. I don't see it up in there. There's a couple of these that are a little bit close together. There is 626, 624, 623, 621. There's 625. There's DF 625. I think that is our transition in. Yep, let's look for that. So the ILS is going to be 25 left. ILS 25 left. And it's going to be the Fauer. I don't know if that's the correct pronunciation. Fauer 2 Alpha. No, it's the Fauer 2 Bravo. Glad I caught that one. No transition out of here, but I'll bet there's a VIA. And our VIA, there's a 626. There's Cha. There's Meter. So there's Cha over there. Oh, there's Cha there. There's Charlie. I think we want 626. Let's do that one. DF 626 is the closest that I can find and insert. Okay, we should have a flight plan that gets us up to Frankfurt. By far, I think that one of the most interesting places as, you know, an American to fly, I think, is Germany. You know, they've crammed so many airplanes into comparatively small space, and being able to manage those airplanes and keep it all safe means there's so much to learn, and I really do enjoy getting to learn those things. GPS primary is set, so that's looking pretty good. Let's go up here, get the APU bleed patched in now that we have APU, and I'm going to turn the temperature in the back of the cabin down one click because there's more people back there and it gets warmer. Our preliminary load sheet is now in, so we can go to init and do init page B. And our zero fuel weight is 58.8. 58.8. And typing these in have gotten so much easier for me. Page 2 on the load sheet, the mean aerodynamic chord, zero fuel weight, our center of gravity, 30.7. 30.7. And let's pop that in. Okay, fuel planning. Best place to take this is right off the gas gauge, 5.0. So 5.0 is what's in the tank right now. And all that looks good. I'm going to accept this, return, and the load sheet is done. Let's come on up here. We know that the altimeter is it really 1007? It's really 1007. Absolutely perfect for the spy flight. Thank you. 1007. 1007. And then we come on down here and 1007. So altimeters are checked and set. That looks good. That's great. Okay, with those done, let's look over at the departure. And one of the things that VATSIM is now expecting us to do is check our initial departures. Our you know, when they all say climb via the SID as a part of your clearance from VATSIM means check for an initial climb clearance. If there isn't one on your SID, they're going to give you one. But if not, they expect us to actually, you know, read the chart. So 7,000 feet is our initial climb clearance. So 7,000 feet. So that's one of the things that I've noticed they're starting to do more and more on VATSIM these days. And there is our jetway still in place. Gosh, this is such a neat airport. And by the way, this is one of those airports that you can go and you can go zipping around in the drone cam and go exploring the terminal. Okay, we have 152 passengers aboard. They're done loading the baggage. We are getting close to departure. So everything's looking good to go up here. We've got the APU. Everything's good here. What have I forgotten? Oh, a squawk code. So Europe, I think 1,000 as an initial squawk code. So that's pretty good. We've got the FMS set. Oh, look at that. Jetway is going back. So long, Jetway. Wow. I don't know how this looks on your monitor, but it really does look amazing on mine. And if we look down here, we can say that boarding is now complete. So with boarding complete, we're going to get out of the Fenix app and go to the Departure Performance app. And this is really cool. This is an absolutely amazing part of the electronic flight bag. Our departure runway is runway 26 left. So 26 left. It's despite the fact that it says there are showers here in Munich, I don't see any rain. Do I have real world weather cranked in? I have live weather turned on. The servers must be slow. But anyhow, we have dry runways. Let's sync the final load sheet. I'm going to go PAX on because we care about the comfort of our passengers, and I'm going to leave the air conditioner on. That was a little bit too sappy, wasn't it? Okay, let's go ahead and sync the live weather and calculate. And it looks like we've got an update here. It says the QNH is now 1006. Did we get a new updated weather? Let's look and see. 1007 is what I've still got here. So maybe we're getting a faster weather or an older weather. But let's just go ahead with what it is that this is saying here. Flaps are going to be 2 and down 0.3 trim. So 2 down 3. So let's do performance. Flaps 2 / DN 0.3. And that goes in there. Are we going to flex? We are. 66 degrees is our flex. So we're going to save wear and tear on the engines and save some gas. 36, 136, 139. 136. 136. And 139. Transition altitude here in Munich is 5,000 feet. And we are ready to go there. Waiting for another load sheet. Let's go ahead and look up here. Do we have the APU up and running? We do. Doors are closed, so we're going to turn on seatbelts. Let's go ahead and disconnect from ground power. I always, at this point, will turn on my fuel pumps. It's a little early to do that, but I always forget. And so I need to work on my workflow a little bit, but there we go. Okay, back over to the Fenix app. And it's time to go ahead and we're going to engage the parking brakes. By the way, the parking brakes and the control levers all work so well with the Thrustmaster Airbus stuff. I really do like that. Come on over here, and we do have ground power. We can release ground power. Brakes are on. We can go ahead and add chocks and cones, and we're going to connect up the tug. And everything's looking good to go here. We're still waiting for our final load sheet. That will come in probably during pushback. Everything's looking good here. Seat belts. Oh, doors are closed. We can arm the emergency exit lights. Let's do that. And if we look out here, you can see we've got everybody's looking good here. And here comes the tug. We got we got 2 wing walkers over here. I don't think that they'll actually walk back with the airplane, but we're starting to see cool stuff like that. And it looks like our tug is connected. So let's go on over here. And the tug's connected, so parking brake can go off. We're going to start moving the airplane around, so I'm going to turn on my beacon. And we can come over here, and we can start the push. Straight back push. And I don't know if they spin the airplanes here in Munich or not. So usually, if I don't know, I just go a straight push back here behind. Usually there is some traffic lines, roadway markings here for ground traffic. I usually will push my airplanes beyond that. I usually wait until I'm clear of the gate area before we start doing things like start the engines. And sometimes the crank knob works and sometimes it doesn't. It looks like it's working really good here. Look over here. Do we have pneumatic pressure? We do. So let's go ahead and I'm going to start engine number 2. And engine number 2 is starting. And we can look back here. There we are past that little crew line. And that's pretty good. So let's go ahead and we're going to stop the push. Wait for the airplane to stop. Otherwise, the airplane kind of pitches up and down a little bit. And parking brakes go on. And we can come down here and say, thanks, tug driver. And that will release the tug. And the engine is coming on up here. think the engine sounds in the Airbus getting better and better all the time. By the way, the cabin on this airplane is modeled incredibly. The seatbelt sign, no smoking sign works. And another thing that works really pretty good that they did, they modeled the individual seats. So we are in row 19, seat F. I think that's really pretty awesome. They modeled the seat, the rows. How about that? Is that not the perfect thing for a flight sim geek? All right, I think we got a good start on engine number 2. Let's start engine 1. Engine 1 starts. And we'll come back here, and we should have been like real pilots, and we should have been monitoring the start. So we're going to monitor the oil PSI, oil temperature going up here too. We can also monitor fuel use when fuel starts. We can also look up here. We see the gray box around the end too. That means the start sequence is on. If you happen to miss, you look up here and see where the start sequence, up here at the end of the start sequence, it says engine available. And you happen to miss that because you're looking around the airplane and stuff like that. Another way to tell that the start sequence is over is that gray box goes away. And did we get the engine available? Still, EGT is coming up, 477. Maybe I missed something here. 18.5, 18.9. There it says available. So it's delayed a little bit, but that's one way to tell. Hey, a company message has come in, so load sheet. And let's go back to init and page B. And our load sheet says 58.8, that's current. Our zero fuel weight is 31.1, that has changed. So slash 31.1 and put that in there, and that's good. Except this, there's other numbers and stuff that we should have looked at here, but that's part of the learning that we do here in Flight Sim. So every flight is another learning experience. At least it is here at the Spy Flight. Okay, we have pushed and started. We're going to be making a right turn. One of the things I like to do is I like to have my moving maps kind of set up here and for ground. So we're going to come out here and we're going to come out via Sierra 8 and Sierra to, let's see, Delta Alpha here for runway 26. So it's always nice, and I always use the moving map at the airports on the ground, especially on a VATSIM event, because wow, can you get busy quickly and forget where you are. Okay, APU bleed can go off, as well as the APU master. Let's come on down here. Let's get ready. Feet on rudder pedals, and everything's looking good. Let's do a control check. Oh, you know why it doesn't work? Guess what I forgot to do? I forgot to put the mode back to normal, and now we can go and do the control checks. So if you forget to do the mode button, it won't show it automatically. Ailerons. This is an important thing to do, not just for real world pilots, but for flight simulator pilots. If you've got a USB that's disconnected, this is how you're going to find it. Okay, trim is going to be down 0.3. So set the trim to 0.3. All that looks good. Okay, predictive wind shear is going on. I also use this opportunity to arm my speed brakes, reset the rudder trim. I should have started squawking mode Charlie before we pushed back. That's a VATSIM thing, and I just put those on all the way. And everything else is looking good. Wintertime is coming. So one of the things that you do is sometimes in the wintertime, if there's snow and ice, you delay rolling out your flaps and stuff so you don't get stuff kicked up in the flap mechanisms, snow and slush and junk. So I've always been kind of, I always delay my flaps kind of for that reason. Most airlines, though, we're going to go ahead and do flaps 2 at the gate before we taxi. And I think part of the big reason for that is very probably because we need to concentrate on taxiing, not setting up the airplane. So all of that is looking good. Final steps. Auto brakes to max. Config check is good. And we can go ahead and do our nose light. Do a cabin call. Let the cabin crew know we're going to start rolling the airplane about. Parking brakes off. Toe brakes are on. We'll look over here. And out we go. Release the toe brakes. You might need to add just a little bit of throttle. Not much. Just a touch. To get us rolling. And start the turn. Once we get going again, I really would, you know, I'll just thrust idle taxi on this thing. It's a short taxi out. One of the things that I did is last night we had lots of traffic at San Diego. And so last night I did a one engine taxi. Saved me a bucket of fuel. Because I'm not kidding. We probably sat on the ground for 45 minutes with engines running. So the one engine taxi really kind of came in handy. And out we go. And sterile cockpit time. I don't know if pilots in sterile cockpit are allowed to take a drink of their coffee while they're taxiing. Probably not. You know, you hit a pothole or something like that and bounces the airplane. You spill coffee all over yourself. You're not paying attention outside. So I imagine that the rule is no drinking coffee until after sterile cockpit. Back to thrust idle. Our ground speed right now is good 20 knots. So we're kind of cooking along here. And we've got a couple of 90-degree turns. So left turn out here, left turn at Sierra. This is an incredibly nicely done airport, including, you know, these underpasses. So there's a traffic underpass there. Really awesome. And let's start our turn. I've cut down the sensitivity on my nose wheel tiller quite a bit. So I've really cut down the sensitivity on my nose wheel tiller, and I think that's helping me control the airplane on the ground. To the point I think it's that my sensitivities are down like minus 75% on that. I don't know if that's actually helping, but it feels like it. So there we go. And what a nice airplane. This is the de-icing area here at Munich. So we need to get ready for de-icing time. And let's go on over here and we'll just grab this this entry to the runway. I don't know that I know that icing has been famously modeled here in Microsoft Flight Simulator. I don't know about de-icing things. But as winter approaches in the northern hemisphere, that's certainly a question. Okay, there's the ILS hold. Nobody's on the ILS, so we're cleared to hold short up here. And here's our hold short point, right where we want to be. If we were on VATSIM and nobody was around, you know, obviously look around, see if there's anybody else out there, announce intentions. If you're on multiplayer in Microsoft Flight Simulator, I will look outside and see if someone's on approach. If someone's on approach, I'm going to be nice and not go ahead and just taxi on out. So we just got our clearance to go out, so strobe's going on. And I'm going to do the one little click on the landing lights. That's going to go and lower the landing lights on this airplane. The landing lights drop down under the wing. And so we're going to go and have those ready to go. I did not turn them on. You don't turn them on until you're going down the runway. Because, you know, if you get in the habit of turning them on early and there's another airplane over there, you're going to blind the other airplane. So that's not a cool thing to do. Sounds on this airplane are so good. Okay, there's our windsock, and as predicted, the wind's going to blow us off to the side just a bit. Back to thrust idle, get us centered up on the runway. Obviously, I didn't turn right. On the runway, landing lights are on. Shall we see if we can make this work? I usually push the throttles forward until we get about, 3/4 of the way up to that little halfway mark. And look down at the engine instruments. They're synchronized and stable. And we've got manual, flex, SRS runway is set, auto thrust is blue. I'm reading indicators up here. Those are the indicators I'm reading and making sure all those have popped on. Steering now with rudder pedals. Little bit of rudder because of that wind. There's 100 knots. There's something that you can get, and V1 rotate. There's something you can get that will give you call-outs. I think it's some Copilot app or something that will give you call-outs. I would really love to have call-outs for this airplane for speeds. You know, 100 knots, V1 rotate. That would be so nice. Okay, positive rate, landing gear. Here comes our gear. And again, the Munich airport is so cool. This is a really neat airport. If I ever get to go and do any kind of traveling, just to go check out the airport. Okay, lever climb. So thrust climb. Thrust climb is good. And I'm going to go ahead and center up my flight directors a little bit here. There we go. Center those up a little more. And let's get a little help from the autopilot. AP is good. ATC just called. Climb and maintain 14,000. So climb and maintain 14,000. Speed's coming up 1 plus F, so we can go ahead and do a notch flaps. Cabin view for watching the flaps is always a good time. And there is the slats indicator. So speed's coming on up. ATC called. Climb and maintain flight level 240. Thank you, ATC. So just go to your final climb. There's the letter S. And with that, we can go and do another click of the flaps and watch the leading edge slats go up. And how about the view outside the airplane right now? Wow. Microsoft Flight Simulator has always been stunning, visually stunning with the scenery outside. But now with airplanes like this airplane, it really has become such a great experience. And out we go from Munich. Reset the altimeters. 1, 2, and 3. I know you can tie them all together. I generally don't. Speed's coming up. Now, one thing I did not do that you're supposed to do is one pilot is always supposed to have terrain radar on. The other pilot has weather radar on. Weather radar still is not a thing in flight simulators, so there you go. But terrain radar, one pilot always has that on. 7,000 feet. And a nice departure. Engines are in good shape. Nothing's weird there. Usually in this, after this, I will go over and do flight plan on the first officer. Gives me distance and arrival time. And I'll usually leave this one on performance. Ground spoilers are still armed up. Don't need those. Ground spoilers are off. And we're passing 8,000 feet. So long, Munich. We will be back. And here we come up to 10,000 feet. 10,000 feet. Landing lights. I turn off the nose light, even though the nose light's off. We'll turn that off, and we'll also do a 10,000 foot cabin call. Let the cabin crew know that we're at 10,000 feet. Some airlines, I think that means that's an end of sterile cockpit. You also hear a 10,000 foot cabin chime in most airlines, I think, and that's usually when the flight attendants pop on the PA and say, hey, the seatbelt sign's still on, you can't go to the bathroom. But while you're waiting for the seatbelt sign to go off, we'd like to suggest that you take a look at the credit card offer. It's in the seat pocket in front of you. Okay, we're pretty much out of the departure here. I should have had constraints on, and there actually was one, but the airline hit that 250 knot constraint just fine. So the next thing I will usually do is airports, and there's airports, and I'm going to kick my map up to 40. Always want to have airports up. If we lose an engine, it shows, hey, there's an airport right there. We can go. We can get the airplane there. And that's what that is. So real world weather, we were supposed to have rain. We're also supposed to have rain at Frankfurt. Doesn't look like the weather servers are behaving well today. It's okay. So if you've got a nice little wing view set up like this, and you come over here, you can go and one of the cool parts of flight sim is you can have your map out like this. And, you know, if you haven't got to be a tourist in a long time, you're kind of still, you know, stuck at home and stuff. This is a great way to be a virtual tourist. And I will sometimes just set up the airplane like this and have a wing view out. If you really want to be an airplane geek, you can order a box of Stroop waffles, which United gives out in the morning along with a cup of coffee on their flight. And a nice climb out. There's 15,000 feet. It's nice and smooth, so we're going to go ahead and I'm going to do another cabin call. Let the flight attendants know that they can get up out of their seats. Our flight today is 1 hour and 10 minutes, so I don't know. They might be able to run the beverage cart up and down the cabin once. So, you know, hand out some, you know, Diet Coke, which I guess is the worst thing to order from a flight attendant. Okay, we can come back over to my flight right now. And over here we can go to the METAR page. And we can go and do our arrival METAR. If we were on VATSIM, we would also be able to get a digital ATIS if we were on VATSIM right now. And there was a digital ATIS to pick up. So right now, EDDF, winds are 210 at 12 knots, ceiling and visibility is wide open according to this METAR. The real world METAR is significantly different. Let's go ahead and take a look at METAR TAF. So METAR TAF, and let's go to Frankfurt now, EDDF. And so, well, right now this says about the same thing, so maybe the weather has changed a bit. Okay, so it's actually caught up right now, so it's no longer raining. So that is actually correct. So one of the things that I've gone and done is come over here and I put this over here. These are my flight notes. If you've seen these over on the Spy Flight on Twitch, this is how I take notes for flying. And it's just a simple notepad. And if you would like a copy of this, just look in the description. I've gone and taken, you know, the top lines. I've taken some of the payload stuff out here for the MD-11 that I have set up. So I've cut that down a little bit, but this is how I do notes. You can cut, you can highlight and copy it, and then paste it into your own notepad. It works really good. Now, if you're just getting started out on VATSIM, I'm going to suggest that you start off using a pencil and a piece of paper, or a pen and paper. And then as you start to learn the things that you'll write down, then maybe go to the notepad version. Unless you're like a fiend with notepad and you just know what you're doing there. But, you know, start out maybe with a pen and paper first. And then you can adapt this as you go forward. And a nice departure going out. Notable, okay, so Nuremberg's coming up here. There's Stuttgart over there. A lot of small towns that I wish I knew an awful lot more about. Because I imagine there's got to be some really cool things to see. Amazing food to try, that sort of thing. And we are at altitude cruise. So it's in a white box, and it is now Mach altitude cruise. We're at our final cruising altitude. Looking down here, it already wants our destination data because we're 42 nautical miles out. So let's go ahead and go phase and phase. Notice I left this up here until I'm actually going to go and start punching this data in. So clear it. Altimeter is 1003. 1003. QNH. Temperature in Frankfurt is 14 degrees. Winds in Frankfurt are 210 at 12. 210 at 12. And as far as minimums, let's go over here. We're still planning 25 left. So 25 left, come on down here for minimums. We are doing a Category 1 approach, 562 feet. So 562. And all of that's in. Back to performance. We are 36 miles from top of descent. We are 168 miles from Frankfurt. And the computer is estimating landing at about 1459 Zulu. So all in all, we're doing pretty good. A couple of things to note here is the ILS, IFSW. That's the ILS's four-letter identifier. Also the inbound course 247 and the frequency 111.15. You don't have to memorize that sort of thing, but I like to keep that kind of in the back of my head because as we're coming on in, you're going to notice that information in pink down here in the lower left-hand corner. You want to actually make sure that the airplane has tuned in the proper approach. And so the real pilots are going to go and look and make sure, did the airplane set us up on the ILS for runway 25 left? Next thing we can do is I usually will use this opportunity to come into Navigraph and clean out my charts for the departure. So all I have here is the star, and we have a couple of arrivals. So if we were cleared for the Fowler 2 Bravo arrival, the last altitude that I see here is 11,000 feet. So we can come up here. And once I get that clearance, that's when I'm going to actually change it up here in the autopilot. But I won't change if I'm in VATSIM land and I haven't gotten a clearance, even though we're past top of descent. I will not change that until I get my clearance from ATC. My clearance. There's another pathetic joke. But that's usually that's the only time I will change that, is when I'm cleared to do that. Once I'm cleared to do that, hey, rock and roll. Or country and western, or classical and baroque, it's up to you. But that's my indicator that I am cleared for the star. And that's how I know that we're cleared to do that thing. The descending thing. We can go and do seatbelts off for a little bit. We got a few minutes here. Somebody back there in the cabin probably ordered the Venti instead of the Grande, and they probably need to do a fast trip to the facilities, the lavatories back there. By the way, as you get older, you learn it only takes one time to learn that lesson about ordering the Grande and not the Venti before getting on an airplane. I promise you. Just learn from my experience and my pain, because they didn't turn the seatbelt sign off for the entire flight because of turbulence. So you can imagine how uncomfortable that was. Okay, everything else is looking good. The engines are functioning. Real-world Airbus pilots say that they will go through and run the ECAM. And so they come down here and hit the all button. And there's the engine page. There's the cruise page. We're gonna look at oil. Nothing's wrong there. There's the bleeds. Are any of the numbers going down? Is anything in red? Here's, there's pressure. Cabin pressurization. Is pressurization dropping significantly? There's the electrical page. Are the batteries being overcharged? Hydraulic page. Now, from what I understand, the green hydraulic system is always going to be the lowest. So that's the one that always gets the heaviest use. So hitting the all button goes back to the main page as you page through here. Fuel, are we out of balance or anything like that? Boy, we really were out of balance on that flight out of San Diego. So I went up and I turned on the crossbleed and turned off the fuel pumps on one side to balance out the airplane. That was kind of a deal. You could continue hitting the all button. I'm going to hit the APU button. APU is cold and dark. Air conditioning, all that looks good. Temperatures are fairly pleasant. Doors are closed. Wheels, do we have hot brakes? Our brakes are, well, it's a little warm on the right side there, but not too bad. Flight controls, anything funky here? Nothing's red. And all that looks good. Hit the status button. We did not clear any status items. Release that. And so we've just gone and run the ECAM. Top of descent, 7 miles away. From what I understand, the real-world Airbus pilots, they do that every half an hour. They just run through all of those pages, and they check for you know, a lot more stuff than I just showed you. And 5 miles from top of descent. I usually try and press the button at 1 mile. So 4 miles. 3 miles. Now, if we didn't have our clearance, even though we are coming up on that, you're not supposed to hit the button, but we have our clearance, so we can press the button. 2 miles, and 1 mile, great. And press the button. What did I do wrong? 11,000 feet. Oh, there it is. I pressed the button and it flashed at me. Maybe I didn't do something right on that. There is the, I call that the Sim Caesar donut. Sim Caesar is a live streamer over on Twitch. Likes donuts. So this is, some people call that the donut. I think they also call that a green dot, although there is a green dot speed over here for flaps. And the airplane's going to keep this centered. Now that we are on the descent, I'm going to go from airports to constraints and make sure that we stay at flight level 185 here. So we're going to make sure that we're being good pilots as far as our constraints. Oh, there was a constraint here at flight level 240. That's why it probably didn't like me. We were at 240. So it was cranky with me about that. Some pilots, as soon as you start the descent, they will get on and do an announcement saying, folks, hey, you probably noticed we just started our descent. Be able to leave the seatbelt sign off for about another 5-10 minutes. So if anybody's got to make a last-minute trip to the lavatory, now's the time to do that. They might run through the local weather. Weather in Frankfurt's pretty nice, 14 degrees. If we were in the U.S., of course, you would need to be very good at converting that 14 degrees there down to degrees Celsius. So I have degrees Celsius down here, and 14 degrees is 58 degrees Fahrenheit, 57, 58. So if I'm pretending to be a captain making the announcement, I'll do, you know, can do the conversion. And for those of you that can do the conversion in your head, those of us that can't, admire your ability. Passing 20,000 feet, I think, I usually do seat belts about 25,000. So we're going to go ahead and do seat belts. And our descent is going really good. My guess is an awful lot of Airbus flights in Europe are 45 minutes to an hour. Pretty fast hops. Unless you're doing some sort of a long haul. Other descent preparations, I think we're in pretty good shape. If we wanted to, we could have jumped down the radio nav. We could hit the radio nav button here and look to see what the airplane is planning to do, IFSW. Hey, we recognize that, don't we? The airplane is already looking for the correct ILS for us. The inbound course, 246. This says 246, the chart says 247. Chart's probably a little old. It's Navigraph, so, you know, it's not the latest and greatest. 111.15, that is our frequency. So the airplane is already looking for that. So we go back to performance. That's another thing that you can check on the way in. Now, let's say we're on VATSIM. One of the things that I like to do on VATSIM is when I have a few minutes, I'm always listening. If I happen to know that there's an airplane ahead of me going into Frankfurt, I'm kind of listening, and if I hear that, you know, Lufthansa Flight 999 gets kicked over to, you know, another center or tower, and I listen for their frequency, I will try and play a game that I call Guess the Frequency. And Guess the Frequency is what is going to be my next frequency. When I have a few minutes to spare, I try and look ahead and figure out what that's going to be. So I will do that two ways. I will listen to what they're saying on VATSIM, what the controllers are telling airplanes ahead of me to do. The other thing you can do is look at the list of frequencies that shows up on vPilot. That's the communications client that you use to talk to VATSIM. And you can look at that and see what frequencies are coming up too. I'm not always right, but most of the time I'm right about guessing my next frequency. And one of the little jams that I get into as far as workload is concerned is changing frequencies, because whenever they want me to change frequencies, they've also given me 3 other things to do at that same time. And so that's when I'm my most busy. So if you can go and start on your big VATSIM events, start playing Guess the Frequency, that's going to save you a little bit of time. Because the controller can say, contact the tower on 119.9 and do this, that, and everything else. Well, you can say, okay, I will contact, because I've already got it and it's ready to go, and you just have to hit the button, and that's all it takes. And that really becomes a time saver for you. Okay, we have to be below flight level 145 and above flight level 135 here at CV, and I think we're doing pretty good there. The donut, the Sim Caesar donut, the dot here, we're right in the middle, so we're maintaining our descent really pretty good. This approach here is what I call the. This is a thing that I'm seeing, especially a lot in Europe and the UK, is what I call the waiting queue approaches. And so we can come on in here and follow this, but all of a sudden, ATC here at Spisa might say direct DF616, and that moved us up ahead in the line a little bit. And so I think that they use these as clever little ways to move airplanes forward and backward in the line of airplanes coming in. I mean, they could say right now direct DF624, and that's going to move you right up ahead in there. It's not to move an airplane ahead of another airplane, but it's to keep everybody in sequence. And I think that that's, you know, another way to jam all the airplanes that they jam into the sky, to the crowded skies of Europe, and move them about more effectively. And so that's kind of one of those things that, you know, I take a look at and say, okay, this is actually really pretty smart. And at Spisa, we're supposed to stop our descent at flight level 110. But my guess is they will move airplanes, you know, a few notches ahead, a little, one more turn, or they'll leave you where you are if they need to build a little bit of space in there. So that's a little part of the shuffling of airplanes that they do. in the skies over Europe. You have to do sort of the same thing in, you know, places like Chicago and New York and LA, but there's a lot more room to work with, and so I don't think we have these really, really tight waiting queues in the U.S. Nothing really to worry about here. One of the things that we do have in this airplane is the CPDLC system, and I believe that this thing is getting that this is maybe modeled here. So if we go ahead and turn up the brightness on this, I don't know if it actually works, but from what I understand, this thing is starting to work now. And oh, look at that, no more pages. The way that you would access this is to come over here, and you could go to McDo menu, go to the ATSU system, and go to ATC menu. So we can make requests here. Request a direct to due to weather. Now, I haven't jumped into this yet at all, but I think that this is really pretty cool. Reports. Manual position reports now. I believe we could have also, while we were on the ground, we would have had the option to request our clearance through departure clearance through this. So this is something that's coming up and getting better and better. DLH Ops. You were late in your departure for 5 minutes. You gotta go. All right. So, delay allocation card. The pilot was in the bathroom. No. Pilot needed more coffee. No. Delay of him. No. What was the reason? Stairs broken. No, we can't blame it on the stairs. Simulator restart. No. Status message. System reset. Late removal. Loading error. Departure runway change. En route slot delay. ATC startup delay. Fueling, defueling, I think all we can do is OTH, other. So let's see, let's do, it was 5 minutes, so return, ADC delay, the delay was for 5 minutes, it was an OTH, enter optional free text. We were recording a YouTube video, and the pilot was yapping on YouTube. Pilot space YAPPIN pilot yapping space on pilot yapping on YouTube. Should have put that on the top line. Pilot yapping. Send it. There we go. Yes, pilot yapping on YouTube. That's going to be a genuine delay code there. Okay, what are we doing here? Receive messages. Let's do require. I usually put this back on flight plan. Okay, so what are we doing? Oh, look at this. We passed Spiza. We're at 11,000 feet. We need to continue our descent. ATC call. Descend to maintain 5,000 feet. So let's just make it an open descent now. And down we go to 5,000 feet. Here's 10,000 feet, so we're going to be slowing it down. And 5,000 feet we go. Uh-oh, look at these big bad clouds. It's starting to cool off up here. What's the temperature outside the airplane? Total air temperature is 5 degrees. Static air temperature is -7. We're coming into some clouds. We remember what the rule is, right? If it's below 10 plus degrees and you're in clouds, I'm going to turn at least the engine anti-ice on. Probably not critical at the moment, but 'tis the season in the northern hemisphere to start getting worried about icing again. Maybe it's a little early for me to say 'tis the season. Okay, there's our speed going down. ATC just called. Reduce your speed to 210 knots for the airplane ahead of you. So 210 knots. And the little arrow is showing up here, so we are just slowing down, so that's good. We'll just go ahead and continue on around here. ATC is now called. Descend and maintain 4,000. Why would they have called to say descend and maintain 4,000? Well, there's the final plunge altitude of 4,000 at lead key. Oh, they're probably getting ready to move us up in the queue here a bit. So we need to be a little bit closer and ready to do our... we need to be ready to get ready for landing here. Okay, we're down to the little green dot here. We're also below these little golden hash marks, so we can start to throw out some flaps. So leading edge slats can go out. Always fun to look out the window when that's happening. And around we go. There's lead key. There's 4,000 feet right there. If we're descending down to 4,000, they're probably getting us set up and ready to go and make a turn there. So we're at 8,000. We got 4,000 to go. So we're probably going to get a turn out here to intercept the localizer. Oh, we're also below 10,000 feet. Landing lights. Nose light. Cabin call. And 7,000 there. What's the temperature outside the airplane? Still 5 degrees. Continuing down around here. This is looking good. See, we're also on the descent. I'm going to go, and usually this works out pretty good. But when you have a minute like I have now, I'm going to activate approach mode and note my VAP speed, 137. So approach 137, there's 6,000 feet. There's that 4,000. So my guess is we're going to be getting a turn here any second now. As we continue to approach down here, there's 6,000 and change. Enjoy the view outside. A couple more descent preps we can do. Let's go down here, arm our speed brakes for landing. Auto brakes, medium. Auto brakes and speed brakes. It says ice is not detected here. So that's probably saying stop being a worrywart. It's also the total air temperature now is 8 degrees, so it's warming up. So we could probably, okay, we're also kind of outside the clouds now, so I'm going to say it's probably okay to do that. ATC just called. Turn left heading 360. Uh-oh, altimeter reset. And it's 1003. And 1003. Seriously, the first officer really needs to start setting their own altimeters. Can't find good first officers anymore. ATC called. Continue the turn to 320 degrees. So 320, intercept the localizer. Continue the turn, 290 degrees, intercept the localizer. 290 degrees, there we go. Let's go ahead and activate the LS system. And there's that pink stuff I was telling you about, IFSW 111.15, we're 20 miles out. We have localizer, we do not have glide slope. ATC, continue your turn to 270 degrees. Getting us all set to intercept. Coming up on that pretty good. We're going to keep an eye out on the little half diamond here. When it becomes a full diamond, there it is. And let's continue that turn. And how well did we do? Relatively good. Okay, note the wind here. It is coming from the left, so it's going to want to blow us to the right. So maybe let's do 244 degrees. Let's get a little bit of a turn there and see if we can't center ourselves up here. $17 miles out, looking pretty good. No sign of the airport yet. ATC called, says we are now cleared for the ILS, runway 25 left, maintain 280 knots until 5 miles DME from the runway. So 180 knots. Did I say 280? 180 knots is usually what they'll say. There's 180 knots. Speed's coming down. There is the S. And we get to see some slats and flats, and look at that scenery outside. Wow, that looks so good. It keeps looking better and better. We now have glide slope and localizer. I'm going to get some help from the autopilot, and we're just going to engage the approach. No shame in engaging the approach, especially if you're new to this airplane and you're on a VATSIM event. Absolutely no shame. Get all the help you can get, because right now we're also being told to switch to tower. If it's me in plan ahead mode, as soon as I switch to tower, I'm also looking up at vPilot to see is there ground control. Because once I switch to the tower, I also then, if I'm over here on tower, I try to put ground control in here because I'm really busy when they want me to switch to ground control. And I just don't have the time. I just don't have the time for that. So if I can switch, you know, in the minute or so that I have here, so that's why I utilize the approach system so much. Come on over here. We're obviously doing well here. The only thing I'm going to note is missed approach. So missed approach straight ahead and then left turn 5,000 feet. I'm just going to have that in the back of my head. And at this point, I'm going to come over here and switch over to the map. 25 left. We're going to try and get Mike 15 and come over here. And this Lufthansa flight would be parking over here somewhere. So I have that off to the side and ready to go. Starting to sit back, relax, make sure that my chair is centered. Get ready to do the rudder pedals and controls. And we are 10 miles from the runway, so I'm going to go ahead and hit the 10-mile range on my map. This is usually about 5 miles or so from the runway, so we'll get ready for our final approach speed. I've already clicked the approach button, but I'm going to verify we're in approach mode so that when I'm ready to go to manage speed for landing, I know that the airplane is ready to be managed. Ready to take over as managed. Coming up on the 7.5 mile range ring. For me, that's just when I start to go and do final preparations for landing, including landing gear.
2000.
So as we come on in over parts of Frankfurt, landing gear. There goes wheels. And we're looking good. I have the airport, I have the runway. Gear is out. Still waiting for 5 miles DME from the runway, and that's when we're going to set up our final speeds. We've already done the cabin. The cabin's secured. We're not slurping coffee right now, which is obviously good. There's 5 miles. Close enough. Manage speed. We're below these little hash marks here. Flaps 3. And we'll wait till we get flaps full. Okay, gently put your feet on your rudder pedals if you got them. And make sure you can grab your side stick. Everything's looking good there. There's flaps full. Everything looks good. The last thing I do, I'm going to note the wind. It's coming from the left. It's going to blow me to the right. It's 18 knots. And after we do flaps full, I'll wait till the airplane kind of settles down with the speed and the descent. Everything's good. Autopilot's off. Captain's got the airplane. It's really easy to start over controlling stuff. I try really hard not to on this Airbus. Just really gentle, small corrections. I think the winds are a little more gusty than the METAR says. Little high now. Definitely a little high.
400.
Definitely getting blown around too. Okay, now we're a little low. Oh, we got blown off quite a bit from those winds. Let's get back over here.
Speed.
Flight slow.
A little windier than I thought it was going to be today.
100.
Flight slow.
40. 30. 20. Retard. 10. 5.
Reverse. That was not one of my best landings. How come I never get a decent landing on YouTube? Whoa. Wow. Definitely got blown around here. Okay, this was definitely a drunken sailor landing. This was a horrible drunken sailor landing. Boy, can I edit a YouTube video? Man, that was awful. Yeah, the people from Phoenix are saying, don't ever touch our airplane ever again. Uh-oh. There's an X over there. Can't go to that one. Got to go to this one. Hey, at least we're off the runway. Yeah, Phoenix and Lufthansa both saying, don't you ever touch our airplanes again. Well, we did manage to save it. So speed brakes down. Flaps can go up. So much for my theory about better controls. Watch, I'm going to try and I'll redo this flight later on today, and it'll be a perfect landing. But I won't record it, so there we go. Okay, the wind sure was gusty on that. Strobes. And let's do APU. Okay, we're coming off at L14. Man, that thing went bad awfully fast. And there's a company message in there too. You're an idiot. Let's go ahead and cross 25 center. Lima to the ramp. Still though, was able to actually sort of kind of like recover it. Not great, not terrible. Seems to be, you know, the story of my life. Look over there. There's Lufthansa Cargo. Hey Inga, hey Claudia. I'm referring to some really great MD-11 videos available here on YouTube. And out we go there. VS minus 100. The airplane is really upset with me. The airplane is cranky. I think if we turn off the flight directors, that will stop being cranky. APU is coming on up. Passengers are saying, we're never flying with this pilot ever again. And we'll turn into Lufthansa land here. And this looks like it's going to be a decent gate for us. So straight on in. And this airport doesn't really have a center line for us on this. So we'll just kind of guesstimate. I think this is like Alpha 20. So yeah, no center line on this. So I'm not sure. We'll just kind of come in and do our best. That's one of the things that is kind of missing here from Microsoft Flight Simulator is good gate guidance coming in. Good, you know, really good quality gate guidance that we all can use at any airport. I think that's probably pretty good. So parking brake can go on. We have an APU up, right? We certainly do. Well, we'll just go ahead and hit the bleed. Come on down here. Engine number 2. Engine number 1. I said those backwards. Let's also come over here. And we're going to turn off the squawk on that. So we are no longer squawking. Beacon and the nose light could have gone off. We'll also do seatbelts. Emergency exit lights can go off. We're going to do the fuel pumps. There go the fuel pumps. You can see that the ground crew just put in external power. So external power is on. So all of that is looking pretty good. And everything's nicely done here. Come over here and deboard the passengers. One of the cool things is this airplane will just go ahead and set you up for deboarding, which is really, really nice. I mean, I just, you know, the jetway's in place, and that just starts deboarding the airplane. So if we come over here and get rid of this and go back to the Fenix app and then go to mass and balance, you'll look over here and see passenger numbers are, well, it says loaded. Let's go to ground services. Maybe I need to open a door. One left is open, so passengers should be getting off. Cargo is already unloading too. Is the number going? Okay, there go. Passengers are getting off the plane finally. So, you know, aside from the phenomenally awful landing, let's go over here. Let's do one last thing. ATSU. Air operations. Received. Arrival message. Up DLH ops. What's this? Oh, my excuse was received. Doesn't mean that it was accepted, but my excuse was received. Arrival message. And our arrival, our actual time of arrival was 15:00 Zulu. Fortunately, it doesn't say, you suck. But something that will say that is going to be Sim Toolkit Pro. And Sim Toolkit Pro says my landing rate was minus 284. Yeah, we were all over the runway. Boy, was it embarrassing, but hey, we made it. So despite my really crappy flying skills, I have to tell you, the Fenix is amazing. The update, I think, made it infinitely more controllable. My landings last night in San Diego and Vegas in the VATSIM event were 10 times better than this one. So it really was a nice airplane to fly. And it was, the buttons were better, so I was able to keep up with the radios and the McDo and stuff. All in all, just an absolutely amazing airplane. Well, clearly, after looking at my landing, my usual disclaimer of this is not about the right way versus the wrong way certainly applies on this flight, but it is indefinitely what works for me. I hope that some of this might work for you, and you had a nice flight. and you were able to fly along and enjoy this amazing airplane. I'm still new here on YouTube. I do respond to all the questions and comments, and if you've got a flight that you'd like to see me do here on YouTube, that's a great place to pop it in there. Want to say a big thank you to my donors on Ko-fi and Patreon, and also the subscribers and the extremely generous gift subscribers and givers on Twitch. You all are the definite jet fuel in my flight plan. I am surviving on Twitch and YouTube right now, and I am incredibly grateful, and thank you for your support. The Spy Flight is Tuesday through Sunday. 1900 Zulu is our departure time. In the summertime months, that is 3 p.m. Eastern Time in the United States. Thank you so much for flying along with me. Up, you can see we've already unloaded the cargo, and they've just closed the cargo bays. How about that? Thank you so much for flying with me. I hope you are doing well. I look forward to seeing you soon on Twitch and soon here on YouTube. As always, though, stay healthy, stay safe, and cheers.